So what your personal brand is, all of us know, like when you go for an interview, the very first question they ask you is, tell us a little bit about yourself. And this is it's normally the very first question during an interview. And it's the question that really throws people off balance. And the reason is we've not thought about what our brand is. We've not thought about like what our value proposition is. So like you've not taken some time to think like who are you, like what is your brand, what are your strengths, your skills, and your passions, like what skills are unique to you. So personal branding is so important, so that then if you create a personal brand around procurement, or you create a personal brand around HR, or you'll create a personal brand in marketing or sales, then you are doing things to slowly build on that personal brand. If you're creating a personal brand as a teacher, everything that you do in terms of the training you're attending, the certifications that you're looking for, the kind of education that you're, the kind of even experience you're looking for, everything is geared towards your personal brand. And it's going to really show on your CV, on your cover letter, and on your LinkedIn. If you are aware of what your personal brand is, and if you've done any work towards building that brand. If it's something that you've not thought about, yet it's okay, because today that's what we're really going to tackle. Like, what is your personal brand, and like how do you build like this personal brand? So let's start off with the CV, because like you cannot talk about like building a personal brand if you don't have a CV. Having a good CV is really, really, really important. Like, I think I usually say this like all the time, and I don't think I can even say I can say this enough, that like having a good CV is usually the very first step towards landing a job. It's usually the very first step towards building a personal brand. Whether you're a baker or a teacher or a swimmer or an artist or an actor or a comedian or stand-up guy, like all of us need a CV. You need to be able to put yourself well on paper. A good CV is not a document that only has good content, but it also needs to look good. If you're not able to create a good CV, you'd rather like hire someone to do one for you. But like if you can go on Google, there are so many CV templates. But the problem is sometimes you can go on like Google, get a template, but then you get a template that doesn't work. You get a template that probably has too many colors. The graphics are not so well done. You're not able to format it properly. So you might think you've done a very good job on your CV, but then in essence, it's not a good document. So if you've made your CV for yourself, make sure you send it to at least 3 people to have a look at it, to give you feedback, like maybe there's certain things that you want to change here and there. You also want to make sure that your CV does not have any spelling mistake. So the first thing towards you building a good personal brand is your CV. Because remember, when you send out your CV to, you could be sending it out for a job application, or you could be sending it out for, like any other position. You're not there to explain yourself. Like, you can't say, no, here, this is what I meant to say. When you send out your CV out, the other person is going to interpret it the way they're going to interpret it. So you want to make sure, in as much as possible, that CV is almost perfect. No spelling mistakes, it's properly formatted. It's like you have properly presented yourself well on paper. Someone can read that CV and they can be able to tell what your strengths are, what your skills are, what your your passions are, and what your value proposition is. The other document that is really important is the cover letter. And I know the cover letter is something that is normally really downplayed by most of us. So, sometimes when employers tell you to send a cover letter, most people don't send it, because then, I think many people find it difficult crafting a cover letter. But I know, of course, all of us have been in 844 and went to high school. And I remember, like when we were in high school, most of us used to write letters, used to spend time during prep, as opposed to like reading biology about mitochondria and Bunsen burner and van der Waals forces. What are we doing? We are writing letters. Now, The cover letter, you remember how passionate and how like you used to write letters, to if you're a guy to your sister's school and if you're a lady to your brother's school, you used to spend hours and hours writing letters. If you could write letters, spend hours during prep writing letters, you can write a cover letter about yourself, selling yourself to an organization. So, you can research about like what it takes to have a good cover letter. But I can tell you, a good cover letter is really, really important as far as you building your personal brand and as far as when you're sending out applications, because I personally use cover letter to shortlist. So I can, and I know like many recruiters and many hiring managers are going to do that, because when I look at a well-written cover letter, I can tell that this person took their time to study the job description and see what the link was between the JD and their skills and their experiences. And so this tells me that this person is a serious candidate who should be shortlisted. So having a good cover letter really increases the chances that you are going to get shortlisted for a job. The other document is the LinkedIn, and I wish I could ask I could ask us like how many of us have a LinkedIn profile. How many of us are really active on our LinkedIn profiles. But the LinkedIn profile is another very, very important tool. And especially during COVID, so many people were hired off of LinkedIn. And I don't know if it's that most of us don't know the importance of LinkedIn or it's that we don't play it. I think it's a combination of both. But LinkedIn is really important because that is your online CV. It means hiring managers and recruiters, they are able to view your profile. So it's like having an online CV, it's you sending out your application without actually sending out your application, because if people are visiting your profile, they're able to see what you've done, what your experience is, and whether you are a good fit for a role. And especially like during COVID, because interviews were not being done one-on-one, there are so many recruiters, there are so many hiring managers now who went on LinkedIn to look for professionals. So many people were hired off of LinkedIn. That one I can tell you for a fact. So you want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is selling you adequately. Most recruiters and most hiring managers, after they've gotten after they've gotten your CV, they want to go to your LinkedIn profile and see like what is this person all about. Like don't see who's recommended you on LinkedIn. So you can imagine you can have a very good CV, but then I go to your LinkedIn profile and it just looks like someone who's not serious. Of course, you lose some points. So all these documents need to go hand in hand. You can't have a good CV and a pathetic LinkedIn profile. You can't have such a good LinkedIn profile and then you have a pathetic CV. And you can't have like a good CV and LinkedIn, but then no cover letter. All these three things need to go hand in hand. Also, I need to mention something about the LinkedIn profile. Remember, the LinkedIn profile, it's you working on your brand. So if you are a marketer or if you're in sales or if you're in HR, when you're building your LinkedIn profile, when you're ensuring that your LinkedIn profile is selling you adequately, what you're doing is that you're slowly selling you're slowly building your brand. So it means if something happened to your job, like another pandemic came and you lost your job, people on LinkedIn, like the community that you have formed, they already know you as an expert in your field. So maybe an expert in HR, an expert in marketing, an expert in procurement. So it means it's going to be very easy for you to land another job. It's very easy for you to approach, like someone who has been seeing the things that you're posting on your LinkedIn profile, and they can see that you're passionate about what you're doing. So investing in building your personal brand is so important because you are doing it for yourself. And on LinkedIn, it's so important because you're killing two birds with one stone. You are increasing the chances that you get hired, but you're also increasing the chances that if something was to happen to your job, then it's easy for you to get another job. And how do you build that brand? Like, for example, let's talk about LinkedIn because I feel that's the one that is normally so important. So the first thing I want to say is you could have the best LinkedIn profile in the world. Like if you came to me and I made for you, you paid for the LinkedIn profile revamp and I did for you your LinkedIn profile, and you have a very good profile, but if you do not use the profile to advantage, it's going to remain hidden in the dark. this is how the LinkedIn algorithm works, as opposed to a platform like Instagram. When you go on Instagram, you're going to see the posts of the person who put out a post latest. So like right now, it's going to submit to 4 p.m. So the person who's posted right now, if I go on Instagram, I'm going to see the posts of the person who's posted like right now, like 1 minute or 50 seconds ago. But on LinkedIn, it uses a different algorithm. I'm going to see the post of the person whose post has the most engagement. So if I put out a post on LinkedIn 1 week ago, but people are still commenting and liking and sharing, if you went on LinkedIn, like even 1 week later, you're still going to see that post. But if I have such a good LinkedIn profile and I put up a post, but nobody likes, there's no engagement, like nobody comments, like that post is going to remain hidden in the dark, meaning your profile is going to remain hidden in the dark. So there are certain things that you need to do to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is always popping, because remember, you want your LinkedIn profile to pop to the right people. So you want your LinkedIn profile to pop to hiring managers, to pop to recruiters, to pop to people who, essentially like hire you for a position. So you want it to pop in CEOs, feeds. But if you do not engage, if you're not intentional about building that brand, it's always going to be, hidden in the dark, as opposed to Instagram. You see, like on Instagram, you can post every day. It doesn't matter, like if nobody likes or if nobody shares, someone is still going to see your post every day if you're posting. But LinkedIn has a different algorithm. So you need to work towards ensuring that your profile is popping. And what are some of the things that you can do to ensure that your profile is always coming up? And the first thing, of course, is you need to revamp it. So first of all, like the first thing that is usually important is make sure it's well revamped. Make sure you have, you put a very nice photo. Like you don't have a photo that, like you're wearing a t-shirt, like a t-shirt written saying any wire, ama, kibaki tena. You're dressed properly. You are, it's not a selfie. Like you cannot have the photo on your LinkedIn profile cannot be a selfie. So it's really important that like you can try and go to a studio. I think they probably charge something like 200 shillings, like for you to do a good like professional photo. And then like before you take that photo, ensure that you're very well dressed. If you're ready, it's the day that you made your hair and you're looking neat and you're looking professional. And then all the other details of the LinkedIn profile, like your summary, your work experience, your education background, all these areas of the LinkedIn profile, they need to be populated. Then now, once you have a very good LinkedIn profile, the next thing, you need to send out connections. So if you're in HR, you are sending connections to other HR professionals in the world. If you're in marketing, you're sending to other, like other marketing professionals in the world. If your career is in data analytics, you're sending to other professionals in that field. Because you see, if I'm a marketer, for example, and I'm sending out connections to HR people, or let's say I'm a marketer and I'm sending out connections to people in procurement. You see how those guys, they're not going to comment on my post, because then my content is not going to relate to them. So if I'm a marketer and all my connections are in procurement, they're not going to comment on my post, which means then my profile is not going to pop up. So you want to build a community of people who appreciate your content. So if you're in marketing, people in marketing, but then also you're also sending out connections to HR people, to CEOs, to decision makers, people who own businesses, and people who, when they see your content, they can be able to appreciate. Because now remember, CEOs, they're looking to hire people in different areas. So you can start building your profile as a marketer. And if a CEO sees, oh, this person is really passionate about marketing, they're the ones who can hire you for that role. So you need to build, that community. You need to build connections. And how you do that is you send out connections. So you spend some significant amount of time on LinkedIn looking for people who are in your field, or people who own companies, or people who are recruiters and hiring managers and who can potentially give you a job. The other thing that is important is now thinking about the content that you want to share. So like if you're in marketing, for example, you are sharing content related to marketing. If you're passionate about data analytics, you're sharing content around data analytics. Remember, the purpose of you sharing this content is to build your brand. So you are you want to start letting people know that this is the area that you're passionate about. Even if you're not an expert, you are working towards being an expert in this particular field. So you are sharing you're sharing things that you read. Probably you read something interesting in New York Times, or in Harvard Business Review, or you read something interesting posted by someone else and you thought it was interesting and you can go to share that. So you are consistently, the word being consistent, because you cannot post something today and then wait another month and then you're posting one post every month. You need to be consistent. In how you are putting out the content. So it can be in terms of posts, it can be videos, it can be photos, like whatever it is that is you're comfortable with, that is what you share. So that then slowly in people's mind, I've seen, I think someone called Silas, he was saying that he's a statistician. I think I've said that correctly. Some of us are from that part of the country where SH and CH, it's like all those things are just usually the same. So if your area is in statistics, then like your connections on LinkedIn are people who've done that. They've studied economics and statistics. And because those are the people who like ideally are going to comment on your post. So you start now building, developing content that you want to share. Then the other thing that is usually important as far as building your personal brand, online, and right now I'm talking about LinkedIn, is there's a section on LinkedIn at the bottom whereby people recommend you. So it could be somebody who, you worked with, or it could be your professor, but somebody who can speak to your abilities and to your capabilities. So you want to start having people recommend you on LinkedIn, because if I go to your LinkedIn profile and I can see someone influential has recommended you, that really boosts your profile. So you want to talk to people, someone you've worked with, or somebody who knows you and knows your capabilities. Start having those conversations so that then you start building like a trail of people who are recommending you on LinkedIn and who are speaking to your capabilities. So until there, I'm going to leave some time for Q&A.
Hi, Joan. Okay, so my name is Angela, and my question is, so in a nutshell, how do you define your personal brand? Is it maybe in a couple of sentences? Like how do you create and define it? Yeah.
All right. So that is a very good question. So when you go for an interview, the very first question that they normally ask you is, tell us a little bit about yourself. So to ask it in another way, they're asking you, what is your personal brand? It's also what is commonly known as your elevator pitch. So how you define your personal brand is in terms of, number one, what are your strengths, your skills, and your passions? The second thing, what have been your experience, in terms of work. So I don't know, Angela, if you're a student or you're a professional and worked for some years. So what are your experiences? The third thing is in terms of your value proposition. So in the organization that you're currently working, what value have you brought to them? So what is your value? What is it you bring to the table? So that's the third thing. So I would define my personal brand around those three things. The first thing, what are your strengths, your skills, and your passions? what have been achievements, that is, like what value do you bring to the table, and what has been your experience in terms of work. It can be internships, it can be places where you volunteered. So like what has been your work experience? I don't know if I've answered.
Okay, yes, you have. I think just to add on to the question, like when you speak of value, I know that people in sales speak a lot about I've brought in XYZ dollars in business. So like maybe for a professional who is maybe in the administrative end or legal end, how then can such a professional define their value or what they've brought into the company, if not putting it maybe in terms of monetary value?
Okay, so let me use you as my guinea pig. So like for you, tell me where are you currently working, if you're working?
Okay, I'm currently in-house counsel at Cellulant.
All right, so you're a lawyer.
Yes.
All right. So your question is how, like how do you define your value as a lawyer, right?
Yes.
Okay. So again, like that's a very good question. And I like the example that you've given, like people in sales, they can easily, define their value in terms of, like numbers. But it doesn't matter which area you're in, procurement, HR, admin, law, analytics, whichever area you are, it is possible for you to define your value. And your value, like in defining your value, the first thing that you want to look at is when you are hired for this position, what were your KPIs? So, because then, I'm sure at the point when you're given a contract by your employer, they told you these are the things, against which we're going to measure your performance. This is what success looks like. If you do X, Y, Z, then you'll have succeeded. So I don't know. Maybe let's talk about like one. Angela, I don't know if you're comfortable enough to share one of your KPIs.
Okay, I would say maybe one of my KPIs is implementing a contract management system for the company.
Perfect. So, so if one of your KPIs is implementing contract management system, so you see, then your value is in implementing contract management system, because if I remove you from where you are to another law firm, it's something that you can be able to do.
Oh yes, I mean definitely, it's just something I can do.
Yes. So, and that's just one thing. So, so look at all your KPIs. Have you been able to meet your KPIs? If you have, that is your value. So,
okay.
Yes, and sometimes, well, when you're hired, maybe the employer only uses 40% of what you are capable of doing. So maybe your KPIs are 5, but you have other 5 things that you can do. It's just that you don't have the opportunity to do it. So let's just from the top of my mind, maybe you're very good in litigation, but in your current position, you're not doing any litigation. But you see, that's that's also something that you can bring to the table in as much as you're not currently doing now. And that's why at the beginning, when you're defining your personal brand, it's around the value, but it's also around what are your strengths, your skills, and your passions. Because then litigation could be one of your strengths as a lawyer. So in as much as you're not practicing, and in as much as it's not one of the things that you're being measured against now, it's something that you can potentially give another employer. So when you're thinking about your personal brand, think about everything that you are good at doing. Think about the things that you can do better than anyone else with the least amount of effort. That is your value.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that response.
All right. So there's someone, I like this question. I'm here to graduate. How can I build my personal brand? That is a very good question. And I'm saying it's a very good question because over and over again, I see people wanting to wait until they graduate to look for a job, to build a personal brand, to do a CV, and that's really wrong. you can start building your personal brand even if you're a first year. Because if you're a first year, so I don't know, John, why, I don't know which course you're doing, but let's say you are doing economics and stats. So your personal brand should be around economics and stats. So it means you can have a CV for, you know, like someone who is about to graduate, because then if you're yet to graduate, it means you are a fresh graduate. So you can have a CV, you can have a cover letter, you can have a LinkedIn profile, you know, saying that, you know, you're yet to graduate, this is what you studied. These are some of the projects that you worked on when you're still in school, because I believe in campus, there are certain projects that you work on. So you can even talk about like some of the projects that you worked on and they were successful. I'm sure before you graduate, you also did internship. Where did you do your internship? Have you volunteered? All these things come, you know, together. So yes, it's really, really important that you start building your personal brand even before you graduate. In fact, you are supposed to start building it when you're in first year. How would you build your personal brand if you've been working in diverse career fields? That's also another very good question. So that the person is asking this question, it means you are not very sure about one area. And I've seen and worked with so many professionals who are multi-talented. So you are good in more than one thing. But for you to build a personal brand, you need to pick one thing that almost encompasses all these other things. Or you know, the other thing you want to do is think about 3 years or 5 years from now. Where do you see yourself, or you know, like what kind of work are you doing? And then so start working backwards. So you probably want to build your personal brand around where you want to be 3 or 5 years from now. So let me give you an example. So like I'm a HR professional. I'm actually also like very good at recruitment. I'm very good at HR consulting. But what I'm doing is career coaching. So I'm working directly with people who are looking for opportunities, looking for placement, people who are confused about their careers, people who are looking for promotions, people who have hit a career roadblock and they're trying to navigate. It doesn't mean I can't do all these other HR, you know, things. It doesn't mean I can't do payroll, or I can't do, you know, compensation and benefits, or I can't do training. I can do all these things, but I've decided to narrow down to being a career coach. And when you specialize and when you narrow down on one thing, it's very easy for you to get employed. It also, you know, like leaves. It also ensures that you're not ambiguous. So like when I go to your LinkedIn profile and I go to your CV and I go to your cover letter, if it's written 4 things, you see, I'm not able to know which one of these things you're really interested in. It's good to be multi, you know, talented, and it's good to be to have experience in more than one field. But at the end of the day, 3 years, 5 years from now, you will have to narrow down in one part. So the earlier the better. So you want to start asking yourself, okay, I'm very good at all these things, but is there one thing that can, you know, that can incorporate or encompass these other things, so that then I'm narrowing down to one. If you do that, I can guarantee you it's really going to help you in your career. So that is answering Esther Minor. So if you've been working in diverse career fields, now think about the one that you are really passionate about, and then start building a personal brand around that area. Because now you see, me as Joan, the career coach, I cannot build a brand as a HR consultant, for example. You know, I can't be a HR consultant and a career coach, in as much as they're very related, but it can only be one. So you want to think about one area. So this is to answer Henry Ogola. In the JD, there is the position profile section, responsibility section, and qualifications and skills section. Is it possible to put in the CV in personal branding section the position profile, then responsibilities and skills to be put in the cover letter? Okay, so Henry, when we are talking about the personal brand, I want you to think about the personal brand because I feel you probably, is it possible to put in the CV in personal? So you see, there's no section in your CV that is going to have the title personal brand. But when I read your CV, I can be able to pick out that you already have built a brand. So let's say, for example, Henry, your area is in procurement. From how you write your summary to how you have written down your work experience to your skills, I can see you have built a personal brand around procurement. But there's no section in your CV that is going to be like this is my personal brand. I hope I'm clear, and I hope I've answered your question. If I've not, please let me know. Yeah, so it's not, so don't put a title on your CV called personal brand. And then you've also asked, is it possible to put in the CV personal branding section? So no, it's not possible. So don't put personal brand in your CV. The position profile, then responsibilities and skills in the cover letter. Yes, you can put some places where you worked and responsibilities in your cover letter, but every time you think about a cover letter, just think about the times when you used to write letters to girls in high school. You know how you had so much energy and so much excitement. Now bring that energy to writing a cover letter, because when you're writing a cover letter, it's like you're writing a love letter to the employer, telling them why they need to hire you. So you're talking about your experience, you're talking about your skills, you're talking about your responsibilities. So yes, you can include responsibilities and skills in the cover letter. So I hope I've answered. If I've not, you can let me know. I have done the basic analytical softwares. The opportunities out here on data analysis needs people who have done machine learning, yes, Python and other advanced software. I work in a bank and there was a vacancy for a data engineer. I applied and I'm waiting for it, though I feel I might miss out. So Silas, I think you're in the right, in the right track, because then if you've done the basic and you've applied for this job, then it tells me that you are on the lookout for opportunities. So I would encourage you to work on your CV, keep advancing your knowledge, because then it's true that, in data analytics, like those, it's very cutthroat. So you need all these certifications, like in machine learning, in Python. So you really want to invest in those trainings, so that then your CV has all these certifications. And you also want to ensure that you're casting your net far and wide. So you're applying in your organization, but you're also applying elsewhere. Hi, Joan. I studied law and I'm waiting to graduate in December. How does one transit to a role that's totally different and have no experience in? I'm skeptical. Kindly advise. So that's a very good question. Lorraine, I'm going to answer the question, but I think I've done a video on this on my Instagram. You can also go and check this out. So when you're transitioning from one role, so like now for you, you've done law, and probably you want to now venture into marketing. The good thing is, for fresh graduates, most employers would only be looking at an initial degree. So you're not going to be, an employer or a hiring manager will not look at you, like very shockingly, if you said you studied law, but now you want to go into marketing. Most people do not work in the area that they studied, but you need to demonstrate passion in the area that you're saying you want to transition into. So like now for you, Lorraine, if you are telling me that you've studied law, but now you want to go into marketing, if I ask you things are related to marketing, surely you need to be in a position to answer. I cannot ask you a question like, so which marketing campaign has been most exciting to you in the past like 6 months, and you have no clue? I'd really be skeptical if you told me you're passionate about marketing and you cannot tell me about a marketing campaign that has really excited you. So you need to demonstrate passion in the area that you're saying you want to transition into. That is usually the most important thing. This is Grace Wairibo. I'm a counselor. I have worked for more than 10 years and would like to change career. How do I build my personal brand? How possible is it to change careers to something that is related to program planning and management? So that is also a very good question. It's almost similar to Lorraine's, because then you're a counselor, but it would have been good if you had said you want to change career to what? So when you're building your personal brand, so this is a very, now this is where it gets very tricky. So if you're a counselor and you'd like to change your career, the first thing, if I'm working with my clients, the first thing I would want to know is, are you okay with, like taking a pay cut? Because then most of the time when you're transitioning into a different career, sometimes you might have to go down to go up. So the job where you're going to be paid the most is the one that you have the most experience in. So like if you're a counselor, if you're applied for another counselor role, you have high chances of getting hired and high chances of continuing in the same salary range. But now if you decided you want to switch from counselor to marketing, you see now you probably need to start at the very bottom, and it means then the salary is going to be slashed. So the first thing is you need to be able to say, are you comfortable, living below what you were earning before? And now if you want to now completely change, into marketing, it becomes very tricky, because now you see, if you were to build a LinkedIn profile, you cannot build a marketing LinkedIn profile when all your experience has been as a counselor. So what I would do is I would say that so your brand, your personal brand would be, I'm a counselor who, I'm a counselor with, more than 10 years experience, and this is what I've been able to achieve, who is transitioning into marketing, for example. So your brand would be having counseling, but also saying that you're transitioning into something else. I hope I'm clear. So it's not going to be a counselor, your personal brand will not be, counseling only, and it's not going to be marketing only. It's going to be like a merge of the two. Because if you leave out counseling entirely, you see now you don't have anything to, to step on. Because then, in this marketing or whichever field you want to transition into, you have zero experience. So your brand would be in two things. Then now, slowly by slowly, you'll drop off the counselor and remain with the one that you are transitioning into. So this is from Joseph Macau. You've talked about revamping cover letter and LinkedIn. If you don't mind, share brief costing of it, and there's a nice offer for the Data Cliff team. So unfortunately, I don't think we have any offers running for September, but if you go on my Instagram is Joan the Career Coach. On my profile, you'll see a link. That link has, it's going to take you to my website, which has all the prices, but I'm also sending my email address. If you send an email, you're going to receive like the full details. If you want your CV, your cover letter, and your LinkedIn profile to be revamped, I've sent it in the chat box. Vanessa, my background is in HR. However, I have been working under a totally different department. Let us say basic admin. How do I build, or where do I start in an attempt to build a personal brand? That is Vanessa. That's a very good question. The good thing with you is that even the HR role has a lot of administrative work. So usidharau basic administrative role that you're currently doing. It's perfect. It's good. Like, it's something that you can work with. But now for you, like, build a brand around HR. Your brand is HR. Like, in as much as you probably don't have a HR role now, this admin role is going to go a long way in helping you build your personal brand. So you can build your personal brand using your education background, using your passion. So you can say that, my background is in HR. I'm really passionate about HR because of 1, 2, 3 things. Maybe, you love helping people. You love to see that things are running smoothly. You are a people's person. You work very well in a team, all those things. And then you can talk about like what your current role is. Then the other thing that you can want to do is you can even ask your current employer if they can give you some additional HR, responsibilities. And it could be, things like doing an HIF, doing an SSF, like working on the medical cover. You can, ask if you can process payroll, depending on the nature of your organization, and if they're able to add on some, some HR work. But the good thing about this is admin is closely related to HR. So it's good, but I would not advise you. You see, now for you, you cannot build a brand around admin because HR is higher than admin. So you're going to build a brand around HR, but leveraging on the experience in admin. Hi, Joan. I'd like to switch to a very technical career. How do I transfer my current relevant experience to the new career so I don't lose my current employment experience? I think for Paris, I would need more details in terms of where are you currently, and which is this very technical career that you want to transition into. So from marketing to accounting. So if you are switching from marketing to accounting, of course, if it's accounting, you need CPAs. So if you had a degree in marketing, you see now for like accounting, the basics that they would want is CPAs, SCCAs, those CFAs, and all those qualifications. So you really want to ask yourself, are you willing, so the first question I would ask myself, am I sure it's accounting? So that then you're not starting CPAs and then, or you're not starting CFAs and then midway, you go like, oh my God, I think I made a mistake. So first of all, be sure. If you're sure it's accounting, then you probably want to start with the qualifications because they're going to ask for the CPAs, like those, the qualifications. If you feel I've not answered your question sufficiently, please, you can, type it out in the chat box again. So the next thing I would want us to talk about now is how you can use your social media to build your personal brand. Because then we all know that, everything nowadays is on digital. In fact, like if you notice, most organizations now are not even advertising on newspapers or on TV. Like everything is digital. And if everything is moving digital, it means then you cannot just have one place. Like now, you can't just have your LinkedIn profile only as a thing that is selling you, or it can't be your only personal brand. You want to have, use social media to your advantage in terms of building your personal brand. And how can you do this? So the first place I want to talk about is Twitter. So I know most of us know Twitter as a place of, people are always fighting. So people are always fighting and insulting each other and all that. And I'm not saying that does not happen on Twitter, because it does. But in as much as all that is happening on Twitter, you still can use Twitter to your advantage. And one mistake, you see, many CEOs would probably not be on LinkedIn. LinkedIn would have HR and recruiters and even some of those CEOs. And they'd probably be going there to look, if they can be able to spot someone and poach someone, or, headhunt someone. But on Twitter, most of these decision makers use Twitter the way you use Instagram or Facebook. So they add on Twitter, looking at what is happening in Pakistan, looking at, like what's happening in the world and what conversations are going on in the world. So it would be really vital that, number one, you first, have a presence on Twitter. But then what you're sharing on Twitter, it's not like what Kenyans on Twitter are sharing. You're very strategic in the content that you're sharing. So that as and when you get an opportunity to send an inbox to a CEO whom you've seen is really active on Twitter, if they go on your Twitter feed and on your Twitter page, your page yako haikuangushi, like you've already built your brand. So by the time you're sending a very good CV, or you're sending them a link to your LinkedIn profile, they are really impressed. But now, if your Twitter feed, it's like when I go to retweets and replies, it's full of insults and, like you insulting someone and being insulted and whatnot. Of course, I'm not good. That CEO is not going to take it seriously. So Twitter if you use it very well, you can use it to to build your personal brand. You can also you can use it to have an edge, because then you see, if you inbox a CEO or a decision maker on Twitter by maybe sending the CV or sending a link to your LinkedIn profile, you have skipped the process of HR and recruiter. So if this CEO or if this decision maker likes you, it's not them to send HR and say, can you invite this person for an interview, which is usually, I mean, that is what you really want. So you really can use Twitter to your advantage. Also, a platform like Facebook and Instagram. So the first thing, of course, would be, the internet never forgets. So whatever it is that you're putting out on your social media pages, make sure it's something that you can stand by. Like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're thinking, can I really stand by this? Is it true? Is it something that is true? Is it beneficial? Is it something that 5 years from now is going to paint me in negative light? And if you think all these things are true, then don't do it. Don't insult people. Don't put out things that have bad language and all those things. There are so many people who have lost opportunities, and I can tell you this for a fact, because of some of the things that they put out on social media. So building your personal brand, of course, you can put all your pages on private mode. But then now you see your best interest is to have it public, so that then if a CEO somewhere or a decision maker somewhere, if they if they have the chance to view your page, they can view your page, get impressed by it, and inbox you or call you for an opportunity. Because there are also people who've been hired from Facebook, and there are people who've been hired from Instagram. There are people who got contracts on Instagram and on Facebook. So you really need to first know your brand, and now use all these social media platforms to your advantage. Of course, there are people who they'll never engage, they'll never put out any post or put out any anything on any social media pages. They are on Instagram, they are on Facebook, they are on Twitter, but they're not going to share any kind of information, which is I don't know if it's good or bad, because then if I go on your page, then I'm not able to know who you are. But you can be intentional about putting out content that is beneficial, content that is in line with your own personal brand. It's not only celebrities who have brands. You yourself, you are a brand. Like in whatever capacity that you are, whether you are a graduate, you can build a brand. Whether you are you've been employed for 2 years or 5 years, or you're transitioning, all of us, we are our brands. What makes a difference is the kind of how are you branding yourself, and how are you using this all these platforms to your advantage. Then the other thing that I would want to talk about is something that I know is going to happen in future. So it's very good for us to be aware of it now. So I know we are going to get to a time whereby employers are going to ask for a video CV. So what is a video CV? So a video CV is basically you talking about your personal brand under 2 minutes. So talking about who you are, what your strengths, your skills, and your passions are, what is your value proposition, what has been your experience, and why an employer should give you an opportunity. And it's doing a short video on it. And of course, the video needs to have all that information under probably let's say between 1 to 2 minutes. So it can be something that's so long. It can be 10 minutes. One of the things that I would want to say is, if you have that video CV probably on your LinkedIn profile, or if I go on your Twitter, if you posted it, or you pinned it on your Twitter page, there's no recruiter, there's no hiring manager, there's no CEO who can see a well done video CV and ignore you. You'll become almost impossible to ignore. So it's also one of the things that you want to research about. Because there are companies, but they're not in the West, who are, using TikTok. So like you go on TikTok and you make a CV, and they're using that to shortlist candidates to see which candidates, like they want for their companies. So for roles like communications and PR and marketing, video CVs are becoming increasingly, a tool that hiring managers are using to, shortlist candidates. So it's also something that you want to read about, and if you're able to do it, also like come up with a video CV. So Jacqueline is asking, what is KPI? I joined in a bit. So KPI is key performance indicators. So when you are given a job by an employer, it's what they're going to use to measure your success. So when you're being given a contract, I'm sure there's that conversation that you have with the person hiring you, and they tell you what success means to them and how they're going to measure that success. So that is the KPI. And what we were discussing was that if you want to know what your value is, when you think about the KPIs you're given by your employer, how many of those are you able to do or have you done? That is your value. Then this is from Ruth Moturi. Hello, Joan. My name is Ruth. We're going through a transition where we all have to reapply for our roles. I have been at my current role for the past 5 years and looking to grow to the next level. What tips can you share so that I stand out during the interview process? So for Ruth Moturi, so the first thing I would do is I would want to have a very good CV first of all. And then the second thing is, would be now around how do you sell your value, because how you stand out during the interview process is how you sell your value. So let me just give you 4 tips. So the first one is, of course, you'll need to prepare for the interview. So ask yourself or prepare answering frequently asked questions during an interview. And questions like, tell us a little bit about yourself. What have been some of your key achievements? What do you consider are your key strengths? What are some of your weaknesses? What have been some of your biggest challenges in your current role? Or some of the challenges that you have faced in the past 5 years in your role? What problems have you been able to solve in those 5 years? Which new ways did you come up with doing, things for the time that you have been in the organization for 5 years? Are there some things that you've seen that the organization can do to improve its process, like depending on the role that you are? So in procurement, what are some of the things that can be done differently? So you want to prepare to answer these questions. And then, so the other thing that you don't think about is think about your contribution, and are you able to measure it? Because then, what cannot be measured, like just it's usually ignored or forgotten. So make sure you can be able to measure your value. So you're giving your contribution in terms of numbers. Have you saved the organization money? Have you come up with new ways? Can the organization say that they're in a better place today because of your own direct contribution? So what has been your contribution and what has been your value to that organization would be really key. And then, of course, why should they retain you? So why should they keep you? If it was between you and someone else, why should they hire you and not someone else? And then the last question in the chat box. Hello, John. My brand is Quality Systems Management. I'm currently working in records management and would like to move to another department that deals with my brand, still in the same company. How do I go about it? So the first thing would be, is that department existing in your organization? And so, I wouldn't, because this is what most people who get turned down normally do. You just approach the manager in the department where you want to go to without a CV, without having prepared. So if there's a quality, like a quality assurance or a quality systems department in my organization, I would set a meeting with the manager there. I would, attend that meeting with my current CV. I would prepare and say, that I'm really passionate about quality systems management because of 1, 2, 3. You cannot say that you're passionate about something and you have nothing to back you up. So it could be that you're currently doing a certification, but you need to show why you are passionate about it. Saying your passion, saying that you're passionate about something and not having anything to back you up, is really not going to be fruitful. And then now saying that you would like to be considered in a role here. Now, if you want to be given a role as a quality systems management, what are some of the things that you'd be able to defend? So go for that meeting so prepared that it's going to be impossible for that manager to turn you down. But you need to prepare about some of the things that you want to say and some of the questions that you want to ask. You want to ask, is it possible? You want to ask, what can I do to increase my chances of me potentially getting a role in this department? You can ask them whether you can volunteer in your free time to do work in that department. Because then, if you're volunteering and you're saying that you'll find some time to do extra work, then should an opportunity open in that department, it's going to be very easy for you to transition into that department. But remember, when you say you're passionate about something, you really need to have something to back you up. So in closing, some of the things that I would want you to take away in terms of building your personal brand is, of course, the person that you talked about. The tools that are important in personal branding is mostly it's your CV, your LinkedIn profile, and your cover letter. These other social media platforms are also important, like Twitter, Instagram, even TikTok, depending on the area in which you are. So you want to think about your personal brand, and you want to see how you can use all these platforms to your advantage, how you can use these platforms to start building your personal brand. Because the truth of the matter is, the CEO could be on Twitter, could like maybe one CEO, maybe they're not active on Twitter, but they are on Facebook, or they're not active on Twitter, but they are on Instagram. So you being in all these platforms just ensures that you're casting your net far and wide. The other thing is, like when you think about your personal brand, think about what is the one thing that I can do better than anyone else with the least amount of effort. Think about if you're currently employed, what have been some of my KPIs? Like, what am I being measured upon? Have I done these things? That is the value that that is your value. That is the value that you take to another organization. So think about your value proposition. Think about what has been your previous experience in. Think about your strengths, the things that you're good at. Think about your strengths, your skills, and your passions. All these things come together to build your personal brand. And you want to write these things down, because then 2 years from now, it could change. You could probably drop certain things and pick up others. But when you write these things down, when you write down what your personal brand is, it's really going to help you in future when you're answering, tell us a little bit about yourself, or when you're giving an elevator pitch. And then the other thing is, especially in this very competitive job market, building your personal brand is becoming really critical, because then there are no opportunities are not very easy to come by. Very good opportunities are not very easy to come by. So you want to make sure that you are standing out from the pack. You want to make sure there's something special about you, and you can do this by having things like a video CV. And I think I've explained about like having that video CV. You can think about building a good profile on Twitter, and then you go on LinkedIn, search for the name of a CEO of a certain organization that you want to work for. Go on Twitter and see whether they are there, and then if you have a very good CV, you can send them your resume, or you can even send them a link to your LinkedIn profile. But then, of course, you are also being very careful how you're messaging them. So you're saying, hi, my name is so and so. I saw this open opportunities or this open opportunity in your organization. Please find attached my resume for your reference, and I'm looking forward to hearing back from you. So you cannot just forward a link to a CEO. They're going to ignore you. So how you message them is very, very important. So I think that is it from me. I'm going to hand it over to our host.
I think there was one question that we were not able to handle from Stephen Ochieng. He says that we should kindly discuss on knowledge authority to personal branding. How do you achieve this and present it in your profiles?
That's a very good question. So let me just give three pointers. And I think I got asked this question very recently. Someone that I know, they wanted to to build a brand around it's actually machine learning, but it's AI. So knowledge on authority, and so we're asking, like right now, can I call myself an expert, and I'm currently not an expert. So the first thing I want to say is, when you're building your personal brand, so let's say I want to build a personal brand. Let's use my friend as an example. So they want to build a brand around AI. So he's not done any. He's done some certifications or some courses around machine learning and around AI, but he does not have the core certifications and the core experience. He's not an expert, but he's passionate about that area. So he doesn't have the knowledge and the authority, but he has passion. Let me say that again. He doesn't have the knowledge and the authority. So, he cannot call himself an expert in AI, or he cannot call himself an expert in data. Actually, all this, machine learning, AI, all these things, I think they normally just come together. But he can start building a brand around AI. And how can he start building a brand around AI? By starting to share, knowledge around, around that field. So, like now, for example, Stephen Ochen. So, when you share something that you've learned or something that you saw and read somewhere, and so and on LinkedIn it will go something like, so I recently read this thing about AI, and you go on to explain, or you share a video around so like there's this thing I saw the other day. This lady, she's a keynote speaker, so she's speaking in UK, but people in Japan can see her robot, and that robot is speaking in Japan. So of course, there's a lot of AI and there's a lot of machine learning going on around there. So if you share something like that and say that it's interesting and do your research, you see, you sharing, it doesn't say you're an expert, it doesn't say you are an authority, but it can tell someone that you are really passionate about it if you're consistent about sharing things around one area. And that is how you build your personal brand. It's going to take 10 years for you to be an expert in AI or in machine learning or to be a data analytics expert. You cannot wait those 10 years to start branding yourself as an AI, like somebody who's passionate about AI. So your brand can be passionate about AI, passionate about machine learning, passionate about data. Like data is my thing. I love big data. I mean, like data is where I feel I'm at home. So start building your brand, even if you're not an expert in that field. And you see, you're not calling yourself an expert. It's passion. So if you're sure that you're really passionate about this area, start building your brand around that, like that area that you're not yet an expert in. And how do you start building your brand? By sharing content. So if I go on your Twitter, if I go on LinkedIn, if I go on your Facebook, if I go on your IG, you're sharing things around the same thing. I mean, I'll definitely know that this person is really passionate about this thing, and people will slowly start associating you with that thing that you're sharing about. So if Stephen Ochen, if I go everywhere, I go on TikTok, machine learning, I go on Facebook, machine learning, I go to your LinkedIn, machine learning, everywhere, machine learning. Of course, when I think about anything, if I hear of a job of machine learning, you'll be the very first person that comes to my mind. So that is exactly what you're trying to do. So if all the time on LinkedIn, that's all you're sharing, even if you're not an expert, I'll probably think you are one. recruiters and hiring managers will probably think you add one. Only for them to call you for an interview, and then you tell them, I'm really learning, but I'm really passionate about it. Those people are going to give you an opportunity because already they can see passion. Passion is everything. Passion is everything. And how you build your personal brand is, you build it around your passion. It's very difficult for you to build a personal brand around an area that you're not passionate about. So how you'll present it in your profile is that you are sharing what you have read, you're sharing what other people have done, you are keeping yourself abreast with what is going on in, as far as that area. If it's machine learning and AI, you are, you're reading and seeing what are people doing. And then if you're not sure about something, you are researching about it. So even when you're sharing, you might not be an expert, but because you have read about a certain topic, when you're sharing it, and talking about your thoughts, someone can tell, it's like you're also still learning about it, but then passion is, it's there. There's the other thing I want to say is, remember that hard work and consistency beats talent every day of the week. Hard work and consistency beats talent every day of the week. So there could be someone who is the expert of experts. They have a PhD in that AI and in that machine learning, but then they're not doing any work around it, and they're not consistent in in terms of building their knowledge, in terms of expanding their experience. So this person who is working hard, and it could be working hard in terms of doing some courses, or looking for people who have that knowledge, and trying to see, can I have an interview with them? Can I even go on their LinkedIn profile and read their profiles to see where did they study, where they're currently working, what kind of work are they doing? That hard work and that consistency normally goes a very long way in you trying to build a personal brand. You cannot be lazy when you're building a personal brand, because you need to work hard, and you need to be very consistent, so that then you're not sharing something about AI today, and then the next time you're sharing is 1 month from now. And then lastly, you could be passionate about AI, and you right now you're still novice, but you can think about what are some problems in Nairobi, Kenya right now that can be solved by AI, and can you start thinking about how you can solve that problem? And it could be something like maybe there's a certain road whereby so many accidents normally happen on that particular spot. Is there something AI related that can be used to solve that problem? Or can you use AI to solve a common problem, now, I don't know, fraud, how votes are rigged in the country? Or can you think about how AI can solve education problems, the fact that there are so many Kenyans who do not have access to education. There are so many Kenyans who also don't have access to clean water. So also, even if you're not an expert, but you're saying you're passionate about that area, have you thought about problems that you can solve in your area of passion? Because now that is what is going to help you come up with content that you're going to start sharing, so that even if you're a novice, someone can be able to pick passion. So I hope I've been able to answer.
Yeah, he agrees. Then there's one more question on the chat box just before we wind up. Maybe that could be the last question, and then we could save the other questions for part 2. So I think John says, hello, John. Do you usually do a CV review, and how can it be submitted to you? Thanks in advance.
All right. So John, I've sent my email address. I think I'll just send it again. So you can send it there. You'll get the rate card and all the details. You can also go on my IG, Joan the Career Coach at Joan the Career Coach. you'll see a link on my profile. It has, it's going to take you to my website, which has like all the details in terms of cost and the process and everything.
Okay, Fred, I guess at this point, I'll just hand over to you to close the meeting. And Joan, once again, from me and my team, we are so happy you were able to join us today. Personally, I've learned a lot, and I believe everyone has learned a lot throughout this session. All the questions that were being asked were very valid to every one of us here, most of us at the very least. So again, I'm very grateful that you were able to take your time to join us for this session today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Joan. And on behalf of everyone, I can confidently say that was really, really powerful. So thank you. That was insightful. And you really added value to at least all of us, including me, who are listening. So thank you. Also, thank you all our panelists and our attendees. We value your attention and concentration so much. Thank you for being with us for the duration of this time. You could have been somewhere else doing something, but you chose to spend this time at least listening to what us and Joan we had to offer. So we don't take that for granted, and we are really, really grateful. So on behalf of DataClave, on behalf of Joan, on behalf of the team who facilitated all this, we'd like to say thank you. Be blessed. Asanteni sana.